1 to 9 million in the last 3 years. I'm a constant student. I'm constantly making mistakes. I run to failure faster than I run to success.
You have to decide what's most important to you and then be fully present for it and then watch how the world comes to you.
Yeah, let's jump in this real fast. Everybody, welcome back to the Exit Rich podcast. I'm sitting here with Julian. I always pronounce your name wrong, so I apologize. Scadden? Help me out, Julian.
Scadden is preferred, but I always answer when you call, so it's all good.
Thank you. And Julian's been a very good friend of mine. We know each other for probably about 10 years now.
Wow.
Great guy, great human being. He's the president of Nexstar, CEO. Nexstar, for anyone who doesn't know it, I'll let Julian tell you what it is, but they help contractors, and they probably are the biggest network group that actually helps contractors across the country, mostly HVAC, electrical, and plumbing. And Julian, thank you so much for being a friend, and thank you so much for coming on the podcast here today, brother.
Hey, Lance, thank you for the platform. As you know, I care very much about small businesses, people that are focused on their business. But, as I think we're going to allude to here in the title of your podcast, you're going to leave one day, you're going to leave one way or another. So pick up some nuggets and think about how you want your exit to be. I'm all in with that.
Julian, why don't you tell everybody who you are, what you do at Nexstar, and what actually Nexstar does for people that don't know who Nexstar is?
Fair enough. You got it. I'll go in reverse order. Nexstar Network, as Lance outlined, you can use the term best practice group, coaching and training organization, and we only focus on residential plumbing, heating, cooling, and electrical. But if you're listening, I don't want you to get lost on that, because what we're going to talk about here are, basic business sound principles and how you should think about business. But Nexstar's focus, residential plumbing, heating, cooling, and electrical. I have had the privilege of working here 13 years as an employee, but before that, I was a member. I had an electrical, plumbing, and heating and cooling business. I had a successful exit myself, which I decided the life for me would be a consultant. Oh, that life is easy. You're out here running a business. You've got trucks out there. You've got homeowners calling. You've got technicians. You've got inventory. You've got debt. So I wanted to become a consultant, but I worked here for a little bit as a coach, then actually started leading our training team. Then was the VP for about 3 years. And currently I'm your president and CEO here at Nexstar Network, which means that I am responsible for how we move. And I don't take that lightly. I'm appreciative of it.
I've known you for a lot of years now. I've gotten to spend time with you. We've done private dinners together, me and you. I consider you a friend. You're probably one of the most authentic people. What you see with you is what you get, and that's your leadership style. You have no problem setting boundaries, saying these are my boundaries. This is how I operate. This is my belief system. You're laughing, but I dig it, right? Like, I think it's a good thing to have, right? Can you talk about that? Because how you run Nexstar is going to be very different how contractors can run a roofing business, a plumbing business, HVAC, because you're more of you're dealing with more corporate type people in your inner circle, and you're coaching, right, people. Can you just talk about how your philosophy is running Nexstar was different than when you're running your plumbing business? And some core principles apply, I'm sure, but your personality and what you believe.
Yeah, that's really fair. And I think I gave us a little precursor to it here that, the life of a consultant is not the same as running your day-to-day service business. Your day-to-day service business, if you're the operator, the owner operator, you have to be available. You're on call at all times. You're solely responsible. Your name is on all the guarantees. You have the debt. It starts and ends with you. And that's why I love really anything I can do to help with someone who chooses to put themselves in that position. Number one, not really so much about you, but I know the community you impact and how difficult it is. When I say the community, I mean everything from your employees to the customers you serve and the little leagues that you sponsor and all the community events that you do. Our businesses are tied so closely to the community, and it's not just the service call that I really love to talk about that. And the transition to leading a consultancy, though, there was something that I was told early when I started as a coach. They said, Julian, if a member ever calls you, and we have a guiding principle here, we call it M1, members first. I don't care if you have to return a call to a vendor, if you have to be on a podcast or whatever you got going on, but if you have a member that's in need, that's always the first thing that you attend to. But I was also told when I took on the coaching position that, Julian, if a member, is trying to reach you at 5:30 on a Friday because they have an emergency, that emergency's probably been weeks or months in the making. It's not your job to jump now because they finally decided that it's important. And I really thought about that. So the lifestyle of a consultant is a little bit different. Now, how does that segue into some of my beliefs, behaviors, and how I show up? Well, I've taken full advantage of that, but I mean that respectfully. And some of the boundaries that we talk about, Lance knows really well. And Lance is a friend too. I've been to his home, and I always take that very seriously. I think you're the type of guy who has an open home, but I take that very seriously if somebody's going to invite me into their home and break bread with me. And I always remember that, a really great family and a great situation you have there. But I'll say this, for me, not everybody is welcome into my personal life because I don't believe in that. I really don't. I'm here to serve in whatever position I hold, whether it's coach, trainer, VP, CEO, and you should hold me to that benchmark and I should perform at that level. It doesn't mean we have to be friends. It doesn't even mean you have to like me. It means I have to do my job well and let's build some peer respect. And what is the mission? Why are we together in business here today? And let's get that accomplished. But I don't need you texting me work stuff. I don't need you calling me on my cell phone about work stuff. Because you know what? Sometimes I like to be off the clock. Now, if there's other endeavors that I want to pursue and be available for 24/7, that's my choice. But there's one thing I'll tell you about your business. And when I ran my business, I also had 2 phones. As I started to grow, started to have an actual operator in the business, I wasn't always available. And it's not because I didn't care. It's because of what I call lines of authority and influence. I couldn't be available to always undercut the operator. I couldn't be available when somebody disagreed with their manager. I've got to put the right people in the right places that folks can trust to make that final decision. And yeah, they're going to have to operate through me and through them. Now, if there's something burning or on fire that I need to know, I do have a frontline obsession. I do make myself available and I walk around a lot. But, just a real quick recap to the question I heard you ask there, Lance.
Yeah, I mean, I loved your boundaries because you're a straight up guy. And that's why I think we're friends. I think we're just 2 direct guys that, some people take it personal. I've heard people say to me, well, Julian's not available on the weekends. I'm like, dude, he wants to be with his wife and kids. He doesn't own your business. He doesn't own your business. And truthfully, I've always said this, your emergency and your lack of being prepared for it doesn't become my problem. And I have the same philosophy. I always tell this to I coach from 6 to 8 every night. You know that, Julian. I coach my kids. Everyone knows it. There's no one in the world that doesn't know it. I'm not available unless I decide not to coach my kids. I'll take my kids to Malvern Prep with Nate and Mason, or I might bring King Dig in. So if I'm not coaching, of course I'm going to be available. But if I'm coaching my children, I say to everyone, the house could be burning down. You should know to go grab the goddamn fire hydrant and put the fire out. There's nothing in business is that critical. I've fallen out of LOIs that they've always come back, where I killed them, right? Or a deal's ended and but nothing, unless someone passes away, in my opinion, when someone texts me, call me, I always respond now because, it's been probably now 18, 20 years now. Maybe, yeah, probably 20 years now. My brother Joe died, and I remember me getting off an airplane, and my mom's like, call me right away. And I knew something bad happened, right? My brother died. And so when people text me that, I get pissed off. I'm like, why? Why? Because if someone didn't die, why are you being so authoritative to me to say, call me? Right? Because if I ever text you, Julian, call me, because my communication is never like that. Right. You would know. Yeah. Something's up. And it isn't going to be we missed our financials or someone quit. These aren't these are just business 101 shit that happens every day.
Well, like you said, it's also a little personal. So I'll give you one more piece to this. I sleep, honestly, my phone has notifications off at all times, even at night. I don't even have family that can ping through when I'm resting. So, for the folks who, no, Julian isn't available on the weekends, whatever I want to, what's important to me should be important to him. First off, no, it's not. And should it be? But number 2, I don't even do that with my family. I have grown kids who live out of the house, and my wife and I will go around about this. Well, what if they call? I said, what good am I going to do them 2 a.m. sleep and, they're across town? What am I, some of them are out of state. What good am I? I'm going to be of more value to them, well rested with a fresh mind. Now, granted, she leaves her on and, things like, if something happens in the night, it'll get to me. So I do have that little bit of fail safe. But I'll say, I don't walk around with that thing dinging me and telling me what to do and who to pay attention to. I'm right here with Lance Bachmann. You think I'm going to do 12 other things? It's not happening.
I got to show you something. My phone is always on silent. Literally, you see it. It's always on do not disturb 24/7. And I did that. I think I flew out and saw you probably 3-4 years ago. And we were talking about, you're like, my phone's always on silent. And I was like, and you just explained it like that. I'm like, damn. Now my kids, because my kids are younger, have direct access.
That's fair. Yeah.
And my wife does. Obviously, she almost died 2 years ago. So but outside of that, nobody else can get through, right? Because it's on do not disturb 24/7. Because I will get back to you, and there is no moment more that you should be present than the moment you're in.
And look how successful you are. Look how successful you are, Lance. Okay, your focus, your prioritization speaks. And what we're talking about here, for those that are listening, you have to decide what's most important to you and then be fully present for it and then watch how the world comes to you. It's amazing.
Oh yeah, I mean, listen, I was excited for this podcast. I just did one with Aaron from same day. I mean, I have all my questions for you. Like me, Neri, and Jacob were prepping for you. I was like, I don't have to prep too much for this guy. I know this guy for a lot of years. I know we know everything about each other. He's a good guy. And I was like, that's like, but if I'm sitting here looking at my phone, not concentrating on you, if I'm worried about what's going on out there, you can't be focused here, and people aren't getting the best version of you. And I'm going to say that about all your meetings, everything, people. Like, you really got to focus on the ones you're with. But more importantly than that, Joanne, I truly believe the biggest thing that it does for you is your concentration level so on the task that you're on, it gets done 10 times faster. So many people don't finish tasks because they get pulled in 10 different directions. And I got the worst ADHD you could ever imagine anyway. So my brain's a constant zigzag. So if it is like, I can talk to you about 200 different things in this next hour, right? Here's a question for you. So Nexstar, right? I'm assuming you're the biggest contractor HVAC consulting group in the country, right? There's you, there's ACA, there's a few others, but you're the largest, correct? How many members do you guys have?
Well, currently we just made a recent shift. We had 1,100 and now we're, closer to about 750, 800. So
private equity just took that. You just, here, you went like this. Boop, you're out of here.
no,
I love the fact you did it.
no.
So I think I know the reason you did it. I don't think you're going to tell me on this podcast, but
Well, I'd like to break down the business decision, how we thought about it from a business perspective. Sure.
I'm just curious, was it this? Because I'm going to put it out there. Because I've seen it now. And listen, no one's in bed with more private equity people than me. You've seen how many companies I've sold. You've seen how many people and they've never done it to me. I've never lost an employee to a private equity firm. And they've never tried to recruit because I think they know it would end my relationship with all of them. Like, I would just, because I'm so pro private equity. I'm always like, sell your business to a private equity firm, right? But the minute you steal a fucking employee from me, I'm going to take a flamethrower with you. And this is going to be the opposite approach. Why I couldn't steal somebody that was happy with you. Well, when you offer them double the money, well, I'm sorry, the grass might not be greener, but you're going to think the grass is greener. I'm assuming Nexstar, just like I've seen so many of these other big companies take employees, I'm assuming, Julian, because you're a no-nonsense guy, was that part of the factor of, hey, I'm losing some of my employees to these private equity firms, and they're taking them, and the cost of training employees, getting new employees, it becomes an ache.
Yeah. I'll tell you directly, no. And in complete
Really?
honesty, Lance, that
Thought that was it.
no way.
Damn,
No
right?
way. No way.
Come
No way.
on.
Because to your point, Lance, here's what you also know about me. I'm so happy for everyone that chooses to leave because they made that decision. It's never what you're leaving, it's what you're going towards. Or at least in my lifestyle and my value beliefs, I don't think they left me. I think they went towards something that either serves their family financially, I had a recent person tell me that there was going to be upcoming leadership opportunities in the department they're at, and they had the chance to be a leader at one of these groups. Good. I really am happy. So it's not that. That doesn't bother me. Now I can tell
agree
you,
with the leadership thing. It's just the money thing that irks me.
that's honestly now let's get real. There are some that I do believe that, that's how they were courted. But again, that person made that decision. That was more important to them than the culture we had here. And
Who's not making that decision though? 9 out of 10 people are. I mean, listen, I know you have great culture. I know it's different. Your kids are older. If you have a 2-year-old, 4-year-old, 5-year-old, and that might be part of your core values.
I'm going to tell you about that. Yeah.
I'm going to say this. It'd be, if you could still Bill Rizell for money, I'd be impressed. If you could still Kelly Mazzira, I'd be impressed. Joe Lynn. These are the people that have been with me for years, right? But do I believe you could go steal one of my directors if you offer them double the money? I do, just because to them, even though we have a great culture, we're growing, we're thriving, they just see that shiny object. They don't understand these private equity firms. You're nothing but a number two, and you're going to get chopped when the bean counter comes in.
And it's a good experience for them, though. They should. So to your point, when I was younger, yeah, I did make financial based decisions. And so that's why I can have the position I have today personally, is because, and I have this philosophy. I've had some pretty egregious offers come my way. I'm sure that doesn't surprise you, Lance. But here's what I say. But this came from experience. What will Monday morning look like? So you can wave any dollar that you want. And then I think about, how am I going to interact with these people on Monday? And I can't even get to Tuesday a lot of times when I think about the culture. And I mean, I've had some numbers that I'll never tell my wife what's been offered, because next time I'm telling her to, don't spend that money, she'll go, well, you should have took that other gig and we wouldn't have a worry in the world. But what is it like to live with that? But it does take experience. And I do think people should go out and get these experiences. The business reason why Nexstar made this decision, and you're right, though, there's multi-factors, but I'm going to tell you right now, there were some groups that have been hyper focused, and they're almost making a point to come after our employees. And that's okay. That's okay. Because guess what? 2 to 3 years from now, we're all going to know how you behaved. So just do what you got to do now, get it out your system. And what I want to do is just remain the same here at Nexstar, building the industry. And you know what? These employees will go out, they'll make good money. And if they ever want to come back, we'll have that conversation, because they just made a decision. But what it was, Lance, and the only reason that private equity backed members grew for as long as they did in our membership, number one, they're longstanding members. Now, even though they're not the owners anymore, and you must be the owner to be the member, but there's longstanding relationships there. These are good people that we've seen for 2 decades, and we love them. So it's hard. But the other thing is we did on a board level, we wondered, or the board at least questioned the organization to say, can we create some of these enterprise offers and offerings and value provisions that private equity needs, to see if we can just create a business line that feeds that. Number one, that doesn't align with our mission. Our mission is to help the world's best tradespeople become the world's best business people. Our mission is not to help business people become better business people and see if we can get a coin in it. So that's number one, doesn't align with our mission. Number two, just like anybody who has a residential service business, when they start getting into commercial or government contracts or new construction, I say that's a different business. You're going to have a different type of employee, different types of incentives. It's a different business. I don't mind if you do it, but structured as a different business. So those were the conversations that we had. The more we evaluated, number one, against our mission, it does not align with our mission. Number two, should we utilize our members' money to then create this entity which serves enterprise businesses? We chose not to. And again, that just gets back to the mission. So that was really the business basis of it. And all these other factors that you've heard about, they're true. They're more of like, what I say, paper cuts and annoyances, not fun stuff, but it happens in business.
Hey everyone, thank you for joining us today. I want to give a quick shout out to our sponsors, Service Titan and Rilla, our technology of choice to helping us scale and grow our business, and making sure all of our viewers have the technology to scale their business, so when they want to sell it, they're able to. It does, but like I can give you an example, right? So one of my companies, someone took 2-3 employees from them, right? And it was a friend of mine, and I called him up and we talked. And he said, I'll never take an employee again. He gave me his side, but we were friends, and friends don't try to hurt each other. And I would never take his employees, and we're still good friends, and I love him. And he's actually speaking at my conference, and that's what people don't realize. You go further together than you do by doing that thing, and this is my thing. If it was a shitty organization, it is what it is, right? No, I'm with you. It's a shitty organization. It's real easy to recruit, but the only reason you're recruiting my talent is because you know what I invest in training, what I do, the standard I hold for myself, what I hold for everyone around me.
These are good people.
There's a reason why all my companies grow so fast. People ask me, Lance, what's the number one reason everything you touch grows? Because I hold myself to a standard and everyone around me to that same standard. You might not like it, and that's okay. You just aren't going to be part of what we're building here.
Right.
But if the standard's that bad and they don't want to be here, why are you taking them?
And I want to provide some context to all parties involved. I'm not excusing anything or condoning or condemning, but we've never had this level of money around. So let's be real about that too. Lance, whether it's the employee or whether it's the platform group or whomever it is, money's getting waved around that people thought they'd never see. So I get it. They're opportunists and they have to do what's right for them.
It's insane money I see people getting.
Yeah, I get it. I get it.
Listen, I get why you're buying the company at 9, 10, 12x years in advance. You get that, Julian. You're seeing it. You can appreciate it. And these hardworking tradespeople, they deserve that money. They put a lot of, people don't realize what it takes. And we're going to talk about that, about what you've seen, the guys that go from 500,000 to 2 million to 5 million, 10 million. But when these guys sell their companies that are doing 20, 30, 40 million, because the majority of companies that get sold, most people don't realize this, are under 20 million. They don't realize that. Over 80% of all companies that are sold are under 20 million. So I think it's common for when everyone's like, oh, I want to be the next Lance Bachmann, I want to be the next Tommy Mello. I'm like, no, you don't. It sounds good. It sounds good as a talking point, but Tommy's working 20 hours a day. I'm working 20 hours a day.
You want to know?
Um,
I'm sorry, I have to cut you off
yeah,
here. Somebody said this about you two, and I think they threw one more name in that I'll just keep it here. But they said they're the worst thing that happened to home services, and I said, okay, tell me why. They said because what they've done is they're basically Michael Jordan, and everybody thinks they can play like them. So he wasn't dismissing you. He just said the reason it's bad is because, to your point, it becomes a talking point, and they think they can do it. But what they have to do is the work that you all have done, the education. I see the way that you all are students. You listen, and then you implement, and you execute. And it makes other people think, oh, that was easy, because I'm not going to say you make it look easy, but it is your calling. So it's natural. And so it creates others who believe they can, but man, the work ethic that you all have and the way that you learn and apply and make it happen, not everybody can do it, guys. Not everybody can do it. And that's okay. That's okay.
but but think about this. If you're doing a $20 million company, and let's just say you're not the best operator and you're at 10%, or you're even at 15%, and you're
Mhm.
selling, you have 3 million EBITDA,
Quite
right?
doable. That is quite doable too. If you're listening, that is very doable right now.
I just think that's more realistic for the average person, right?
It
Like this.
is. And that's a great life.
So 3 million, just say you get 8x, that's $24 million. Let's just say you have some truck debt. Let's just say you have 200,000 in truck debt. Okay. Now you got 21.8. Let's just say you have some other lines of debt. You're at, let's just say 21.5. Let's just say you give out 1.5 million to 2 million to your employees that helps you, right? Like I just do, my whole thing is give everybody money. I want to try and give as many people money as I can. I like playing Santa Claus. I enjoy it. Christmas is my favorite time of the year. Now I got 18 million or 19 million. After taxes, I keep 13 of it. Now, there's some guys who will tell you accelerate depreciation on real estate and some other things, which is fine. But let's
Yeah.
just say you keep 13, $14 million.
Yeah.
You're probably just at 8% of that. You're going to make more than you were being an operator running a $20 million company. And most people don't understand that.
Right.
It's a great life to have.
But you have
And
to,
you've seen how many people transact at a Nexstar in the last 13 years. How many transactions have you seen? I'm going to say 500, 1,000.
probably, yeah, easily, because you have all the tuck-ins and all the other activity like that. Yeah, I've really lost count. You're right. Here's the other thing, Lance. I want to jump on that real quick. Is to your point though, now we have people with money who don't know what to do with it, and they didn't know what to do. Again, they weren't going towards something; they were leaving something. And what's next? So I love podcasts like yours that really start to educate. What does life look like post-exit, and how should you think about your assets? I love this saying. I'm stealing it, but I don't care. I love it. Someone said most people who own a home service business, it's their largest asset, and they treat it like a job, and it drives me crazy. It's an
I'm going
asset.
to use that.
It's your largest asset, and you treat it like a job. Come on, let's wake up.
So it's funny when you said, I think I told you this when I flew out to see you. When I sold one SEO, I fell into a really bad depression
Mhm.
for like 6 months. I was
That was your
drinking every
baby.
night,
That was your baby.
heavily, sleeping. But when I say I was drinking, like, and that's probably why I don't drink that much anymore. I still go out and drink, and I'm drinking. But man, 2 years ago, that summer, I must have drank 2, 3 bottles of wine a day easily, just drinking bourbon every night, making all the wrong decisions you could ever make again.
Yeah.
And I remember just being so depressed. I remember saying to my wife, like my wife came and said, there's something just wrong with you. Like you're sleeping to 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock.
Yeah, this ain't you.
And I'm just so lost, man. Like I was so lost, Julian. And I always try and tell people, make sure you know what that exit looks like afterwards, what your why is going to be. Because that's how LB Capital was spun. People think LB Capital has been around for 20 years. It's a 2-year-old company. And yeah, we're doing over $100 million. Yeah, all day long. But it's also, people don't look at the 30 years of work I've done to get here. They don't look at the network I got, the resources I've got. I'm a constant student. I'm constantly making mistakes. I run to failure faster than I run to success. I tell people that, like, but can you talk about how many people you saw get depressed or like they don't know what they're going to do after the exit? Because you had to see it. And I just I try and warn people, like, if you truly loved what you were doing, like I loved the one SEO, which I did, like it was my life and my soul, my identity. I don't recommend anyone ever doing ever. I don't recommend it, because you're going to fall into a really bad depression.
Yeah, I have, and we're what's really cool here is again the Nexstar Network. Is there are a lot of people who have become really financially blessed here in the past 4 to 5 years, and I mean abundantly. And it's really interesting though, and I'll use this language here, the corporate machine. And all I mean by that is capitalism, that money is going to make money and that's what it does. So when you take on an investor, their primary focus is their shareholder return. And there's nothing wrong with that. Just, we know that from the beginning. So let's understand that that's how you got the check you got, because the people who had it to give it to you, that's what they do. They will make this money. Okay, great. But what we don't have a ton of is the human aspect or the experience. Again, back to our industry, how many people have gone through this? Well, fortunately, Lance, to your point, there have been so many deals recently. There are like, borderline, I'll use this language, support groups where I'm watching, I'm hearing about these guys getting together quarterly. I'm hearing about groups of dudes and so for folks who haven't, reached that level of financial success, they really can't understand. And you can't understand until you've built something with your hands, with your heart, with your mind, the sleepless nights. It's your baby. Everything from, I can tell you right now that illuminated thing behind you, Lance, it's to the size and dimensions and angle that you exactly wanted. It's a frontline obsession. And so people say, well, if you pay me, 20 million, I don't really care. Yes, you do. Yes, you did. And you don't know until it's over how much you loved it. So I'm really glad that there are these little groups that are popping up now of these guys saying, what are we doing next? And here's what's exciting, Lance. They have a heart, or at least the folks that I'm around, they have a heart for the industry. They have a heart for Nexstar's mission, which was to elevate the industry. And they're saying, what ways can we come back and serve? What ways can we come back and elevate? All right. And I actually, the call right before you, there's a guy who was, bought a business he shouldn't have. He's not from the industry, brought in an operator. Things aren't going as he planned. And I just instantly want to start connecting with people. He's asking me to tell him what to do operationally. I said, well, you screwed up. You brought in a partner. You made him an operator. You got to let him run it now. You made that choice. Here's what I can do for you. Let me connect you with some people who have been where you've been. Let me connect you with some people that can help you think about where you're headed. And because he got depressed, same thing. He made this investment. He's got all the debt. And then he brought an operator he doesn't align with. Well, let me introduce you to people that have been there before. So we're seeing a lot of that, Lance, where folks are trying to figure out what to do next. But I think what I'm noticing, at least the folks at Nexstar, and they're pretty fortunate. The folks at Nexstar got acquired pretty early in this wave. And now they're, at the other side of non-competes, and, they're really starting to settle into the financial assets that they have. And they're getting their heads about them. They're saying, how can we give back? What can we do? And that's really exciting.
Here's a question for you. You see all type of operators. We're going to talk about next about why I'm going to sell Nexstar and becoming the roofing, because I believe in your mission. So we're going to talk about that. I already tried you a few years ago. You said no. We're going to talk about that. But what do you see in the good operators, the average, break it down, because there's levels to this. There's an operator at 1 million, there's an operator at 5 million.
Right.
I believe there's one at 10, then 20, then 50, and then 50 to 100 is a whole nother operator. And then what Tommy does at his level, and Ken and Dave Geiger, they're just Josh Sparks, these guys are just totally different level operators. They're mathematicians, right? Can you just talk about what you see and the levels you see and what makes good operators, and when you see the growth and when you don't? And because who's going to make it, who's not. You do. I've been around you. You could call it. Can you talk about that?
Yeah. So first, you have to have number one, be a student. That's what I see in the folks that you've mentioned, is they really are astute, but even more so, they can apply. So even if they knew less, what they do learn, they apply quickly. Like you said, run to failure faster than you run to success, and just figure the doggone thing out. You can spend day at seminars, you can spend your whole day listening to podcasts, and you can feel really good about all you know. And I have a saying at home that doesn't go over very well, but I say it: I don't care what you know, I care what you do. There's always stuff I know, and I know. I don't care what you know. I don't care. I know that I should, and I know I should, and I know how to do that movement. And it's like, I don't care what you know. I care what you do. So first thing is I start to look at it is bias towards action. Are they predisposed to taking action, or are they predisposed to just listening and whimpering and telling you what the problems are? So right away, do our best to check that. And you'll find with most human beings, if you check it and you call it out, it's really a blind spot, and they realize it and they'll adjust. So that's why I always love I still have a coach in my life, and part of what Nexstar offers is coaching. But I see that. Now let's talk about the levels that you mentioned. In the beginning, you have to be the hands-on. You have to be it all. Okay. When you said 1 million, so I'll start with 1 million, 2 million, really to 5 to 7, you are the source of energy. Okay. You're not, get your head out of the Lance Bachmann clouds. You're not there yet. Okay. Who you are the daily operator. What I mean by that, you better be on site. You better be looking at your financials. You better be looking at your inventory. You better be looking at your pricing. You better checking how the phones are being answered. You better know everything about the business. Now, operators like you all, once you grow, you don't lose that frontline obsession, but here's where you start to evolve. You become the source of all energy and the doer of all things. The next level that I call is more like KPIs and management. So the first is just hustle and grit. I call the first level hustle and grit. You just got to work where you working. But you do have to hit a point now where you start to understand the business and the metrics. So we call it metrics and KPIs. So we'll bring on a new prospect. We'll kind of define where they're at. We'll say hustle and grit. Okay, got it. We know what they need. Next level will be KPI and metrics. So now they're starting to get an operational mind. But once you get that operational mind, you have to segue now into leadership and what I call management. Now you have to start having others who can manage the business. You start to facilitate leaders. So understanding the metrics is one thing. Now you have to get folks who can actually own those metrics and drive the team. So you kind of go from from that into management, and then just above management into leadership. And there's a great distinction between the two. You bring in managers, they manage the things, they manage the processes, they report back to you. Once you get past that phase, you have to start creating the leaders though. And that's what, can cap even people at the highest levels, because really what you, the Geigers and the others of the world are doing, you're actually creating teams of thought leaders more than operators, more than managers, because that's going to be the culture of your business. They have to, the any of the game is they do have to know the metrics. They do have to know the business. They must have a frontline obsession. And I sincerely believe that you can never lose your frontline obsession, which is why I pointed out that sign. That's what I mean by frontline obsession. Every little detail, not micromanaging, but you really have to care, know, and understand what's going on. So once you get to that leadership level, though, and now you're building leadership teams, you're building culture more than metrics are now the ante. It's now just the table stakes. Now you start to build a culture that will endure or that will be more valuable for sale, whichever way you're taking it. And then the final layer that we call is succession. Succession doesn't mean you leave. It means you now built something that has a choice. Now it's on your terms, and you will leave at some point. So let's talk about it from the beginning, but now you're actually ready for it. That's my quick thoughts on some levels there. What did that create for you?
I'm going to ask this question. Do you think, Tommy gave me the ultimate compliment. You said the same thing. I run to implement. Like I learn, I implement. I learn that we sit. I see so many people that come to my masterminds, and when they implement, it works. Right? I see people part of my coaching group, in masterminds, it works, right? But the people that just keep showing up and are at the same numbers, no, I'm not being rude about these people. You're laughing
I'm
because I know
laughing because I know them. I love them. They're good
yeah,
people.
they're good people,
But
and
come
you're like,
on.
why wouldn't you just try it? And if you fail, like you show up, you say you want to do this. Like, do you know Chad from Humming? Do you know Go Green? Do you know and Andrea? You know Andrea, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So I was going to partner with Chad, right? And this is like kudos to her, right? And so Chad decided to go with Andrea in the HVAC space. She just thought she'd be more compatible, which is fine. I love it. I love it, right? Grasshopper,
Oh,
great
yeah.
group,
Yeah,
core
yeah, yeah.
values, great
Shout
human
out to the
being.
women in the industry. Keep knocking down those doors. Come on, we need you.
I can't say a bad word about it, right?
Yep.
But Chad's biggest problem was Chad just didn't implement. As
Okay.
soon as he gets with her at Grasshopper, I'm using HVAC as your example here and
Sure.
her, because he went from 1 million to he's going to do 9 million in 3 years. That's all implementation. Chad's still the same Chad, but he's still the same Chad. Like, I'm sure something's changed. She made him change some things.
Sure.
I've changed over the years. You've changed. But can you talk about so many people that just don't implement? 'Cause I'm using Hummingbird as a perfect example. 1 to 9 million in the last 3 years, where HVAC has been down overall across the board for the last 18 months, 2 years. Right? Just has been, right? COVID was a great hit for us. But he's growing, and that's because I truly believe she has him implementing. Can you talk about that?
I'll talk about the source of it from my perspective. And I know you've heard this before. I'm still going to go here with you. Walking down the street one day, right? And I see an old guy and a dog on the porch, and the dog is whining. And I can walk by every day, and the dog is whining every day. So one day I get up the courage and I ask the old guy, I say, "Why is your dog whining?" He said, "Well, he's sitting on a nail." And I said, "Well, why doesn't he move?" And the guy just says, "Well, I guess it doesn't hurt enough." And that's it, because these businesses are good. They're profitable to a degree. I've got a good life. Why the heck would I disrupt it? And I think that's how people look at some implementation, even with the metrics and the stats. And that's what we do here at Nexstar. We tell you there are so many clues that have left for success. We have 33 years of experience, or we have 33 years of existence and probably 1,000 years in experience, because you got to multiply all the conversations we have and all the meetings and other things. We hear all these things, and we're telling you how to avoid it. We're telling you how to do it. But sometimes the pain has to be great enough to move, and folks have a good life and they have a good business. That's why I giggled a little too, because I look at these folks and I'll tell you, here's something really, I want to be honest about. I remember how self-righteous I was when I was coaching at Nexstar, and I would see these people and I'd just implement, and do you want to be 7 million forever? And I was really self-righteous and a little rude about it. And then I'll tell you, Lance, it was really recently when Nexstar started growing like crazy. I remember looking in the mirror one day and going, I understand those people that didn't want to grow. I really did. You know, my heart shifted a little. I like realized the comfort and the security and what they had in their business. And sometimes growth just hurts and it sucks and it stinks. You feel like everything's changing and you'll have those moments. So it gets back to what do you want? What do you want? You don't have to listen to this podcast to be Lance, but you should listen to this podcast to consider the things you're responsible for, your legacy, your employees, your community. And if you don't have the battery in your own back to implement, maybe something like that will help you kick in, because that's all it is, Lance, is taking action. And there are so many groups, not just Nexstar. You've got Lance, you've got, I can't even name them all, and I won't name them all because I don't want to show favoritism, but there's no shortage of people who want to tell you what to do and when and how to do it and what to measure. Just do it.
I mean, this is the thing, right? And I guess what made me really, really, really look at it and say, build it to sell it model. When I went through my depression, about 2 years ago, there was a bakery and a pizza shop down in Wildwood. I forget the name of it. If you can find it, it never got sold. It was for sale. The woman and husband owned a bakery and pizza shop, and it was like 2 bakery shops and 2 pizza shops. And these guys ran it for years, like 50 years down in Wildwood. It's a family business, right? Well, none of their kids wanted to take it over. They put it up for sale. Now they passed away. I think one passed away and the other one was trying to sell it, right? Well, this business never got bought. And these are staple businesses down in Wildwood. No one bought them because there was no systems, they were the business. And I try and tell people, nobody wants to buy your headache every day. Like, no, I'm not being rude. Like, people with
That's
money,
what it is.
I know, but like, I look at it this way. Like, I never got to work again in my lifetime. My children, I don't say that arrogant or rudely. So if I'm going to get up and I'm going to partner with you, I'm going to help you, guide you, but you are not going to become my liability and my headache. And that's how these private equity firms think. That's how all these people that buy businesses think. And that just really is where the build it to sell it came up of, holy shit, man, there's just tons of operators out there. This is your biggest asset. This is going to be your biggest life-changing moment that you have. And you don't realize it. Like, you don't realize it, that instead of leaving this organization to your children or your grandchildren or whoever it may be, you have the opportunity to leave them a ton of money that's life-changing, and they can go do what they want to do with their lives. And maybe it is coming to the trades with you. Maybe it's not coming to the trades with you. But that pizza and that bakery is what that woman owned down on North Wildwood, on the Wildwood Boardwalk, and it never got sold. Just resonates. And people ask me to partner with them every day and buy their companies, Julian. I look at them like, you are the company. Like, there's nothing. I mean, how many times do you see that? Do you talk to these people about that? Because I think that's the biggest mistake people make.
Yeah. And so just a shift on language, but an agreement in directionally what you're saying. When you build your business, when you talk about, build it to sell, I mean, just build it to have value. So that's why I get back to that thing about this is your largest asset, and build it so it has, treat it as such, treat it with a business mindset. I don't believe in giving anything to your kids that doesn't have value. So even similarly, if it was just a big headache and you were the source of the business, all you're giving them is a headache. So would you rather give them that? And you use the analogy of giving them cash, but I'm saying you can keep the business. I just visited a company south of Los Angeles maybe 2 weeks ago now. They have a 100-year plan, and they shall remain private. They have a 100-year plan, and that really inspired me. But the point is, every decision they make it's as an asset. They're treating it as such. To your point, it's the same methodology of thinking as if I'm going to sell it, only meaning that we will make every decision based on this as an asset and what brings back the value. And if somewhere between now and year 100, they ever want to sell, they will get top multiple because they treated it as valuable. They treated it as business, and now they have options. That's where I'm most excited. I want you to have something valuable that you have options to. I'm not going to tell you which path I think is right for you. And with the path that's right for you is the path that's right for you, but you're never going to have that option if you don't run it as such. That's where we agree for sure.
I tell people, I actually agree with you. People say, Lance, you say build it to sell it, build it. I do, because I believe in selling my business. I don't want my children, what made me sell One SEO, one of the major factors was when LJ and Hammer said they were going to be a digital lion. And, that was my nickname for years. And I was like, well, okay, that's done. This thing's gone. That was one of the major factors when I knew because I didn't want my kids to have my everyday stress of digital marketing, which, owning a digital agency is high stress, It's just a very different model, right? But at the end of the day, if you don't have your business, it's like building a house. If you have a strong foundation and you have options. If you build a house and you don't do it, it's going to crumble. My business is the build to sell it model is if you want to leave it to your children, I don't agree with it, but I don't live your life. So go do what you want to do. Right. So I don't care. But for me, I'd say build it to sell it because if you would build your company and make it profitable and somebody's going to want to buy it, your kids are going to have a lot easier of a day anyway of running your everyday business. So I agree with you in theory. It's just at the end of the day, everyone knows any company I own will be sold at some point in time. Just it's
That's
that simple.
Let me tell you how beautiful that is, Lance, and why I love it. And I say this all the time. Just be upfront. I always use like dating analogies because that's simple for my simple brain. But if I was dating someone, they said, "Do you see other girls?" Yes. Do you do this, that? Yes. Do you drink? Do you smoke cigars? Yes. Whatever it is, I'm just saying, whatever the thing is, the more you can be upfront about what they're getting into, the better. So yes, when you say, "Yeah, I build my businesses and I sell them," no more conversation about, "Well, Lance, why is it?" I couldn't be more clear. And what I hear in your story is number one, you had goals, you had focus, and then you took action. And so if it is to leave something to your children, if it is to have a 100-year plan, or if it is to sell it, no matter what's your doggone goal? What is your aim? What is your focus? You knew crystal clear. I knew another guy who told me from day one, I never knew this until he sold his business. I never knew this. He sold his business and he was going through the depression that you were talking about. And I asked him if he'd go have a cigar with me because I care for the guy. And I could just kind of sense he wasn't feeling right. But I'll be, on the other side of this, I'm looking at him like, dude, you just got double-digit $1 million. How bad could it be? But, that's from the outside looking in. We go, let's go have a cigar. Sure enough. And so we're mid-cigar and he says, "Julian, do you know why my family never worked at my business?" And I had never really realized they hadn't because I knew he had family. We always talked about family, but I hadn't realized none of them ever worked in the business. It's almost about an 18-year business. I said, "No, why?" He said, "Because I built it to sell it." And I never knew that about him. He said, "Yeah, I had a plan to sell it in 25 years. With all this stuff that happened, I got a little early for more money than I expected." Again, he had a goal, he had a plan, he had a focus, and every action he took relative to that was congruent with his thinking. He told the family, "You'll never work here because I don't want to," and that was his thinking. "I don't want to get too attached. My kids start working if they love it, I ain't gonna be able to sell it." I have another friend who's a technician. I told him recently, he said, "Oh, maybe I want to start a business and do this and that." I said, "Well, do you want a liquidity event or do you want a legacy event? What are you building a business for?" I said, "At this stage in your life, I'm going to encourage you." And I did tell him because it's prescriptive to the situation. I said, "I'm going to encourage you to think about a liquidity event." I said, you can build a business to 7, 10, 15 million, a couple years, real easy. I said, "You can sell it and then you can start your legacy." And he just didn't think of it that way. He goes, you'd start it to sell it." I said, "I bet you behave a lot differently if I give you a timeline and tell you within 3 years, we can easily have you at 12 million. And you could probably get this type of multiple and then you can have options after that. What do you think?" I never thought of it. Okay, well, let's have the conversation.
Here's a question for you. Where have you seen the HVAC industry change? I know private equities come in. Um, we talk about that if you want. We could talk about the costs have gone up drastically. Manufacturers just keep increasing their pricing. People feel like they're doing that on purpose with the private equity groups. It make it that the private equity groups are the only ones standing because people don't realize some of these private equity groups actually own some of the manufacturers also. I'm not going to mention names, but they do. They're investors in them. Can you talk about all these different things and what you're seeing from your side? I'm just kind of curious.
Yeah, I'll tell you how I think about it. I'll tell you what I'm seeing, but I'll also tell you how I think about it. I think it's capitalism. And I've used this line with you before. I'll use it again. When people ask me my religion or my politics, I just tell them I'm an economist. And that's not to diminish religion or politics, but to simply say, economy simply says supply and demand. And then to do one thing, there's something else you're not doing. And so what I see here and what I think about is there's capitalism 101 at play here. Okay, so we can either be victimized by it or upset about it, or we can just say, okay, these are the rules. And I'm going to tell you, as a kid and somebody who came out of a neighborhood and a culture that really did have chips stacked against us, but I never really aligned with my friends who took on the victim mentality and were so mad about it. I said, well, okay, so what? So what? I'm going to get pulled over every time I drive down the street. So don't drink and smoke weed while you're driving down the street. They're mad. Oh, they pulled me over, man. Well, were you drinking and smoking? And you're mad that you went to jail because what idiot? So these are the rules of the game. Okay. So I used to get in trouble with my own friends at the time because I didn't understand their thinking. It's like, well, these are the rules. Yeah. I get pulled over 3 times on my way to work. And some days that hurt your feelings and you get mad. I get that. It's not right. I'm not saying it's right, but damn it, that's how it is. If I've seen this repeated behavior for 3 times, it's a trend, and that's just how it is. Okay, now what do I do to play within the system? So we do right now, and it's not just the manufacturing, it's also the marketing. We're seeing market share is the way I'll say it, Lance. I'm seeing what's happening now is we're leveraging capitalism and position to get market share, and it's really smart. I think it's really smart business. But here's the thing that levels the playing field. The technicians, we don't have people to run the jobs. So you can take all the market share you want, but who the hell is going to run the jobs? And this is, I'm forecasting a little bit here farther out than the immediate future, but I do wonder and I worry, I'll use that word. I think the licensing legislation is still so antiquated with the time that it takes to get a true licensed professional out there that ultimately the homeowner is going to suffer. Meaning that we have people who want to get in the industry. It takes me this long to get my license. I need my license to do X. Well, I think we're going to have opportunists here in the next 10 years for sure. I think, and I hope I'm wrong though, that look at this almost like a .com type of bubble. And they're going to start opening businesses without licenses. They're going to be in your mechanical room, looking at their phone, looking at videos, how to fix it. And 80 to 90% of the time, they're going to get it right, I hope. But here's the difference between a .com. If your website goes down or fails or doesn't work, somebody's annoyed. You mess up on one of the systems that we touch, lives are on the line. And
Oh yeah.
so here's what's going to happen, Lance, is people can play this game of capitalism all they want, market share all they want, but who's creating the culture? And you said this earlier, who's creating the businesses that people want to work for? Who's creating the businesses where people want to serve? Who's creating the businesses that clearly know when and where their exit is, and they're clearly communicating that so we can all be aligned towards that end. But it is rough years ahead, Lance. That's what I'm seeing. I think that folks really need to double down, figure out who they are and price accordingly and target their market ahead. Here's something that threw me off. So
How much is HVAC down real fast, Julian, right now? Year over year, how much is it down that you're seeing across the board? Service Titan's saying about 20% for a lot of people. Are you seeing the same numbers?
I'm seeing the same numbers, but give it context. How much got pulled forward in the pandemic? I'm tired of hearing it's down. I'm tired of hearing it's down. How much? We have to look at the whole stream of the situation here. Yeah, it's down compared to last year. It's down compared to the year before. How much got pulled forward in the pandemic? We can't quantify that. How much is going on here, whether we call it politically, economically. So please stop with it's down. Do we still have people in homes? Are we still building homes? And is there stuff still going out? That's why we're in residential service and replacement. So yes, it's down. Get over it. You need to focus on conversion versus leads. And guess what? If there's going to be a need, and who are they going to look? They're band-aiding right now, gang. It will come back. It will come back.
And you have companies that are growing. I mean, listen, a company doing 100, 150 million or 20 or 30 million, they're a lot harder to grow. And you know this than a 2, 3, 4, 5, $10 million company, right? I mean, that's why my sweet spot, I tell everybody, I partner with companies between 3 and 7 million. I get you to 30, 40, 25. I sell it. Like, it's just, there's levels to this thing, right?
That's right.
Can you talk about that and that mindset? Because a lot of people are feeling, all I hear is roofing's down. Lance, how do you keep growing? All I hear is HVAC's down. How do you keep growing? Like, yeah, overall it's down, but there's a lot of shitty operators out there too.
What I heard you sharing that again is context. It's context. We all like to get together around the water cooler. I do it too. I'm acting like, I'm so smart here on your podcast, but the reality is, catch me an hour from now or tomorrow. There'll be whatever my thing is where I'm going, oh gosh, this is down. Or, what are we going to do here? That's human. You should do that. You should focus on it, but only for a moment, and then get back to focus on where you're headed. That's what I really love what you shared was the context there. It is tough to operate a large business for sure in many ways and many levels, and not everybody's built for it. And if you don't, that's where I'm going to get back to the leadership team. If you don't start bringing in the professionals that have the experience to navigate that 1% adjustment that brings a 10% return or 100% return over time, that's really where it's at. But most of us, I'm speaking for myself here, you might be able to relate a little bit. But when you do, and I laugh when our competitors, I've seen these new emerging consultancies that come out and they're experts and they've been in the industry and, we increase people 300% year over year. Well, yeah, you've been at it 2 years and you took people from 1 million to 13. Yeah. Dude, the number, yeah, those are still the numbers.
All relative. I tell people percentages are all relative. 1 to 2 is a lot easier than 100 to 200, than 1,000 to 2,000. Listen, I don't do the percentage game. That's why I always talk revenue. You see me, I have screens in my offices showing the revenue, not percentages.
Yeah. So sorry, I got a little thrown off track of the topic there, but I think it's relative to stages and context is what I would say. Just keep context, keep focused on your goals, and things will rise and things will fall. And you have to learn how to grab market share when times are tough. And you have to understand how to be a good operator when times are good, because the people that are having the most struggle are the people that got loose when the times were good.
Here's a question for you. How important is a CSR to the HVAC space? Because we got all this AI coming out. People are saying replace it. Do you believe AI can replace your CSR today?
100%, 100%. And what I didn't say though is that they would replace 100% of your people. Again, I think you have to make a choice. How do you want to run your business? So I hear this, um, I'm not going to have AI answering my phones. Nobody wants that. And then they go home and they call for some business and they're doing the same thing. They're dealing with it. So just stop with the no. Do I want to? No. Am I realizing it's a reality? Yes. So now you have the choice in your business. And what we're building here at Nexstar, and I don't have them for you here on the fly, but what we're saying is, what are the benchmarks? What percentage of your calls are, yes, I do think that you need to lean into these efficiencies. If you don't, I think you're crazy, because what's the impact of missing one call, much less missing 10 calls? I think you need to capture the calls, but I think you need to choose how you do it. And here's what I mean by that. Some companies are choosing to have a little disclaimer when the phone rings, ring, ring. You've reached Julian's service business. And to expedite service, you're going to have an automated agent. And if you find the automated agent can't serve you, please press 0 and we'll get a human on the phone as quickly as we can. Most people are so used to it. They just beep, boop, I don't like it, but I just need you out. Or they'll online schedule. Can you believe that people are still running from online scheduling? So there's these things where we get stuck in our own head. And we say this to our technicians all the time. And the business owners love it when we say to the technicians in class, you are not your customer. Meaning, don't prejudge and don't go into this home thinking about how you spend and how you think. But as a business owner, you do it all the time. Oh, I can't have any automation, or I'm going to have 100% automation, and that's just more to the margin for me. Somewhere in between is the truth. But I tell you, Lance, you can't run for it. It's an efficiency. So I won't even call it AI. I won't even park on the call center. Where are efficiencies in general in your business that you're looking past? You're a poor leader if you're not looking for them.
I don't hold you up too much longer. I have two more questions for you. Number one, everything Nexstar, this is what I love about Nexstar. I love you as a leader for this reason. Everything you do is statistic based. You don't just fly off the cuff and talk nonsense. You guys are constantly benchmarking. I've seen your digital coaches who I love. I've seen your business coaches. Like, you guys work, right? I mean, like, listen, we were part of Nexstar when I took Dylan from 2 to 12 to 18 million. And you remember, I had my guys in your library. I was like, Julian, I can't get into the library. You had me help get in there. I'm like, guys, just use their shit. They have everything there for you. Just, why are we trying to this is my first home service-based business. Do you remember me calling you from North Carolina? I was all frustrated. I'm like, what's going on? Like, you're like, Lance, I'll get you access. I'm like, guys, just take their shit and use it. Why are we trying to?
We're trying to give you the keys. Just take them.
Can you talk about that? Because I got to assume a lot of people just don't utilize. You have everything that they can use from beginning to end. Can you talk about that?
So this gets back to what you were saying here about, are people buying your headache, or are they buying a systematized business? And again, this is just from decades of experience. Success leaves clues. There are certain non-negotiables in operations that you just can't skip past. And you think you're smarter than, or you can figure it out, or there's either some pride in figuring it out yourself or some fear of asking for help. But just raise your hand. I'm not sure what to do. Tell me what's working out there. And there are so many. So again, this isn't Nexstar. The reason that Nexstar is so special in groups like ours is because what this is actually it's the combination, it's the amalgamation, it's the aggregation of us seeing what has worked for so many others and what's failed for so many others, and just giving you the vanilla in the middle to start. And so that would be the library, but then the context is where we have to hop on the call with a coach. So that's why we keep a human element. I'm very well aware that many of the vendors out there now are creating AI coaches, and they've even called us to see if we'll co-create it with them. Julian, sorry, we know that you'll probably look at this as competitive, and we're going to eat your lunch, and everybody's going to have an AI coach to walk them through their business. And I go, that's fine. That's good. But what AI doesn't know yet, and I don't know when it will, but it's context. And it's always going to be a layer level deeper. And, eventually I could see a world where Nexstar has AI coaching to a certain degree, because there are certain questions we get asked enough that we shouldn't have one of our human beings on the phone answering that. If we've got the answer, there's certain things that it's an efficiency. But back to your question, it's got to be about the processes. You have the ability to learn from others, and I would take others up on it.
But you have the full library. Is there anything that you guys don't have in that library? I'm just trying to think, because when it's been years that I've been in it, to be honest with you. It's when I had Dylan, where I was a member. But you guys, like, I know other coaching groups are out there, right? Like, I got a small little coaching group, but it's literally 20 people. That's all it is. Very different than Nexstar. Predominantly roofers, But my question to you is, you have every document, you have every video already done. Like just the other coaching groups just don't have a library as extensive as you. They just don't. I've been in it. Like, can you talk about that?
Yeah, and I want to be clear about when we talk about this library and what the processes are, they're operational. Okay. And so when we talk about Nexstar doesn't, I'll get there in just a moment. But here's the thing that was tough. I remember this. So I mentioned I was a member, but before I was a member of Nexstar, I was just running the dang on business and trying to figure it out. Right. So on one side, I have like a marketing agency, and then I had like some call center coaching, and then I had some sales coaching, and they would say things that were contradictory. They were all good for the lane that they were in, but what they didn't have is the connective tissue throughout the organization. So when you hear about Lance, when you hear Lance talk about our library and our processes, the distinction with the Nexstar. So for me, it's not just the volume of the documents that we have, but it's the fact that they're all interconnected. We think about the marketing and how the phone will be answered. We think about how the phone will be answered and how the technician will be dispatched. And we think about how the technician is dispatched to how they'll arrive. And we think about how they finish the call to how the inventory is reordered to how we'll revisit you. So that's the distinction. And I'm not saying that any of these standalone coaching services are wrong. I'm just saying that now it's on you to see how it interconnects through all of your processes in the business. The thing I never liked when I was running a business, it used to get me crazy. I guess it still gets me crazy. It feels like you put everything on the technician. You put so much focus on the technician. Was he dressed right? Is his hair clean? Does he have tattoos? Wait a minute. How do we answer the doggone phone? What does our marketing say? How quickly did we get there? What's our follow-up on unsold jobs? But no, the technician, and I'm not minimizing, they're great people and they're a core part of the business, but you're running an operation where every piece is interconnected. And that's what Nexstar offers, as well as the volume of and the number of things that we can offer in the library, but that it's all interconnected.
Last question for you. I don't want to have too much time. I do appreciate you. And people that don't follow Julian, we're going to talk about what you can follow Julian. Not a big social media guy, but he's a great guy. Let's, here you go. Julian, here's a question for you. I asked you to come into roofing a few years ago when I got in. I said, I'm going to be in roofing. I'm going to change the space. Is there a reason why Nexstar, you guys have so much to offer? Is there a reason why you're saying, hey, listen, we're not going to help roofers? Because there's a place for an organization like you that knows what they're doing to help roofing. Because roofing and HVAC are very similar. Like they're almost identical, the lines. I've been in both. I don't believe there's a big difference. I believe most home services are very similar, walking the line. Is there a reason why Nexstar is still saying, hey, listen, we're not going into roofing? I'm just curious. I'm sure people are.
Very fair. And I'll answer.
Not trying to pressure you, not trying to be a jerk.
No, it's all good. It's all good. And I get the question a lot. The reality is simply focus. Like you talked about, the goal of your business was to sell it, so you took actions and behaviors relative to it. Nexstar has been wrestling, and especially at the time you asked me, I was watching the private equity rise, and we were wrestling with, do we create enterprise offerings? Is this the new service line? And so we don't have to stray from residential plumbing, heating, cooling, electrical. We just shift to enterprise level offerings. And so thinking about roofing and that at the same time to me was a distraction. And I won't be distracted. We're going to run a good business. We're going to have those 1% incremental adjustments that will compound over time. That was it, Lance. I think it's great. I think it's aligned. And I would say stay tuned.
All right, good. Julian, thank you so much. If people want to get a hold of you, how do they get a hold of you? How can they follow you on social media? You have such a wealth of knowledge to help people. If you don't know what Nexstar is, go check it out and definitely go to some of their meetings because it's an incredible organization with an incredible leader. So thank you so much, brother. How do they get a hold of you and follow you?
Yeah, just find me on LinkedIn. That email gets, kind of inundated. So if I don't respond to you on LinkedIn, no worries. Just call Nexstar's main office. I want to talk to Julian. I'm the only one. I won't run from it. I'll talk to you. But you might have to wait until I call a member back, but I will call you back. I promise that.
All right, my friend Julian. Thank you. Julian, I hope to see you at the conference December 3rd through 5th in Marco Island. Thank you so much for everything, brother. Hope to see you there. And if you need anything, you let me know.
I know. I appreciate you. And thank you. Good luck to everybody out there. You've got a great resource in Lance.